during peak hour at the commuter rail train station. At a cost of roughly $21 million, the college is building a new wing on the McGee building that will house 10 new classrooms, a centralized testing area, a math and technology space, and offices. Students frequently use this train and they need peak hour service. 6, Lynn's seat of government and courthouse buildings are just a couple of blocks from the commuter rail station. 7, community health centers employ many North Shore residents. I know several in Gloucester who work there and have the same situation I'm dealing with every day. 8, Lynn's cultural center is thriving with the Lynn Museum, Lynn Arts, Raw Arts, all within walking distance of the station. Lastly, the Lynn Daily Item itself is on Monroe Street, just opposite the commuter rail station. In other words, the train is an economic engine, to use somebody else's phrase tonight, to boost the downtown business of Lynn and to keep things thriving. So please don't think that by taking away express service to people who want to go from Boston to Salem Express, they have 10 other lines they can take that will get them there very quickly. It'll only have 2 minutes to add Lynn to that 5:30 outbound train out of North Station, and thank you for your time. Very much appreciated.
I'd just like to remind you all to pay attention to our timer over here as a courtesy to all the folks that want to speak ahead of you. The next would be Anthony Patrick Hart.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for having this meeting this evening. I would like to agree with some of the comments made by the last speaker and with some of the comments made by Jim Smith. And I've gone through the new schedule, and by count, I believe there are 14 trains on schedule which are not supposed to stop in either Lynn or Swampscott. That may not seem like much to you, but when you take 2 morning rush hour trains and you disappear them into the mist, and then you take 2 evening rush hour trains and you disappear them off the schedule, that impacts people, really changes their lives. When the revised schedule first came out this winter, I talked to a young lady from Lynn. She told me with the revised schedule, she would either be able to drop off her child at daycare, or she could be on time to work on time. Those were her choices. Disappearing 2 more trains in the morning and 2 in the afternoon is really going to cause a hardship for a lot of people. I stood at the Swampscott station this morning waiting for a train that was scheduled for 6:49. It never came. I got on the 7:10 along with a few hundred other people. It's these kind of impacts that are going to really hit. When it's the middle of the winter and your train doesn't show up and the next train is 45 minutes later and you've already been standing out there 15 or 20 minutes and it's 17 degrees. We don't have a parking garage like Salem just got. We don't have a parking garage like Beverly just got. We don't have an indoor waiting period room. And there's been no increase in the parking in the Swampscott station for decades. Though we do have a lot of green space that could be ripped up and paved over to add spaces. No one suggested that, no. We'll build parking garages instead. And you know, if you know anything about either garage, the Salem garage is at 50% capacity. The Beverly garage hasn't even gotten that. And this is where we're putting our money. The reason the Salem garage will never reach capacity is because it's a bottleneck. There's only 1 lane in and 1 lane out. And if people have to park in that garage and spend 45 minutes getting out of the garage and then out of the station to make their way home, it will never reach capacity. Too bad our planning hasn't been done. Thank you.
Judy Bauer.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having these open forums. But I agree with two of the previous speakers, but also too, my biggest disgust, I've been commuting for the last 26 years into Boston. And I remember when my fare was very, very low, I could take the commuter rail every day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I have, on my cell phone, back of my chair, I have hundreds of texts of alerts just from December 1st to present day. And I was, along with Anthony, getting on the train with hundreds of other people today. And in the wintertime, yeah, it's not good. You have to wait outside. I'm lucky I don't have daycare issues. But it's repetitive for I don't know how many of the hundreds of the alerts from December 1st, just from December 1st to present time. Delay 20 to 25 minutes. Delay 20 to 25 minutes due to mechanical problems. Well, if you want to raise the rates, show us something in return that we can get to work on time. I mean, I'm lucky enough, yes, I work for the state. I might be able to adjust my scheduling according to the better proposed schedule that came out, other than what, December, that was atrocious. But not that many people have that, option to do that. I have, I work for a great boss, but it's just repeating every single day. And either the trains don't show, they're overcrowded, they don't collect the fares. And that's what really, I think, gets a lot of people upset about. Thank you.
Mary Beth Curley.
Hi. I have been riding the commuter rail for 15 years, either out of Swampscott or if there's no parking, I go to Lynn. I am one of those people who stood at the Swampscott train station for over 2 hours in 8-degree temperatures last year to have the train blow by you with snow all over you and then walk home because there was no trains coming. But I think my biggest upset was this year when we got the new schedule, which really seems to reflect the schedule, the winter schedule that was out last year. No one seemed to take into account dropping kids off at school, dropping kids off at daycare. My youngest son goes to school, I drop him off at 8:15. I rush to the train station to get that 8:37 train or 8:34 train. Over the winter, I'd have to take a bus, or right now, if I take that 8:37 train, I'm at work by 9:10, 9:15. Last winter, I would have to take a bus or drive to Wonderland. I'd be at work by 10:15. And so it just feels like no one really takes that into consideration. Yes, it's not the peak time necessarily at 8:30 in the morning or 8:45, but they're very important times for a lot of people who work. And just one other comment I just wanted to make about the statement about a lot of people who don't take the T are paying for the T. But we go in and work, and everything we do impacts those people as well. If we can't get to work, it's going to affect everybody in the state. Thank you.
Calvin Anderson.
I live in Lynn, 12 Concord Street for the record. I wrote down some remarks to stay within 3 minutes, and I left them at the house, so I took some notes here. But I actually took some notes down because I find myself agreeing with some of the people who've already spoken. about the commuter rail. I've been taking the T for 50 years. Buses, commuter rail, subways, trolleys. I go back to the 60s and early 70s or whatever the dime time was. Anybody remember dime time? Well, we don't expect that to happen again. And even a 5% increase sounds okay. But in return, let's get some improvements in services. The last thing you want to do is cut any stops in Lynn Central. What you have there is another garage built in the 80s, I guess, that still is only half full. So there was a lot of money put into there. Now, I understand and I use it. I see people using it as an overflow, like the lady said, if you can't park in Swampscott. So why not just have whoever is managing that garage, is it the MBTA? I don't know. Why don't you make an improvement so that those people will come there first? There's more than enough parking. And right there, you know, embellishes our downtown. And there's a lot of good things going on in Lynn, and a lot of people parking there might want to stop and have dinner. So I like the idea about the staggered fares that show, you know, maybe it can wipe out the increases for some of the seniors and other students and deserving people. I got one thing I like, and I don't know if Secretary Pollock can do this, or if it takes an act of legislation or an executive order, but currently in downtown Lynn, next to the big black computer rail wall on Union Street, in the heart of our burgeoning arts and the cultural district, I understand that MBTA doesn't have to shovel or clear the walks like you know, everyday citizens do and businesses are, because the city council had told me, because they're exempt. Now, can't you just do the right thing and unexempt them? I cleared the one today, and we call them the Shane BTA. I think there's a graffiti on the wall down there about Shane BTA. A private citizen cleared this, and it happens every year. Last year there was 4 feet. We can blame everything on Beverly Scott. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Keep the cronyism out. You know what she did? She came in, she started hiring all the cronies. All her, you know, you want to get some budget money back? Start looking at that, get some refunds, get rid of those people. She also, Governor Dukakis, who you remember has always been a mass transit guru, he gave everybody heck after the last season because he says, in 1978, the big blizzard, and I was there, I was working at a hospital that didn't close. We were on emergency power for 2 weeks, two days at Tuscaloosa Medical Center. But the Duke said he was very proud that the MBTA ran, and Beverly Scott started getting rid of the ideas about running empty trains at night to clear and this and that. So anyway, I got more, but I ran out of time. But there was no surprise that it wasn't her first ladies, what did you say, this woman's first time at the rodeo? The rodeo is always filled with horses' tails.
I've been over there in the corner for the last 10 minutes trying to make this name out, and for the life of me, I don't know what it is. Number 10.
Good evening. My name is Marvin Ibolit. I'm sorry, I have terrible handwriting. And I'm a resident of Lynn. I actually ran for city council this past year. My first time, didn't win, but hey. Thank you. The reason I'm up here is because I really obviously want to echo some of the sentiments of the others that spoke, but I remember when I was younger, I actually went to this middle school. I know there was a statement made earlier that there probably wouldn't be any impact felt by people who are low income, but I'd say that that's completely false. I remember when the tea was much cheaper, and my parents still struggled to give us like $5 or $10 to go for the week. We kind of forget that there's a whole lot of kids in this city who wake up in the morning and have to pay that. And it's been increasing since those years. I went to college now, so I can't imagine the impact on these families. Yes, they're able, just because they're able to pay, it doesn't mean that they're not still struggling. They're having to make serious sacrifices for that. And another point, as someone who takes the bus at night and train upwards up until midnight, for instance, like cutting transportation to the city, you're looking like the 455 or the 450, which is already running at crazy times. Like you can catch it in 1 hour and not catch it the other hour. I watch people stand at Wonderland Station on Western Ave, cold as can be, nowhere to stand, nowhere to get some work, and they're paying more for a service that really, to be honest, doesn't feel like they care about them. So I would encourage all of us to continue speaking, and I also want to thank you. I know it's not easy running the T, but thank you for having us here, and I just wanted to echo that. Thank you.
Jean Marie Seeley.
Hi, I wanted to let you know about the people who aren't here. I think that this should have been held at North Shore Community College and not at Brigham Middle School. I would advocate in the future that the people holding these meetings all get to those meetings by taking public transportation. I also want to say that I agree with the prior speakers who talked about we need a better attitude of let's not talk about how we're going to raise fares and cut back the actual transportation and reduce the riders when we have to be concerned about global warming. We have to be concerned about our economy. We should be looking to increase ridership and not to be decreasing the trips, especially for Lynn and Swampscott. And I was really interested to find that Lynn and Swampscott are paying higher zone fares than other equivalent passengers, and something should be done about that as well. Thank you.
Paul Drake.
Thank you. My name is Paul. I live in Beverly, so I made the trek down on the train and then jumped the bus to get here and then took a walk. So I'm here to voice several voices of solidarity in support of numerous comments that were made around service reduction. I am somebody who takes the train from North Station to Beverly, Beverly to North Station all the time. I think the express trains are overrated. I was really impressed to hear, thank you so much for sharing about the difference it makes the trains going through Lynn and Swampscott. So just as an aside, I'm somebody who a couple years ago was dinged with a $1.50 increase for a one-way ticket to go from Beverly in Zone 4 down to North Station. So that's $3 one way. Now it's $7.50 to go one way from Beverly into North Station. And so in a couple years, it's almost been a $2 increase to go one way in and one way out. I did some math on my hand here, so that's $3.50 both ways if my arithmetic serves me right. $17.50 for the week if you go 5 days. That's $70 or $79 on the month, and then $840 or $945 on the year. That's just over the past couple years. So under the 10% plan, that would go up 75 cents again, and that's true in Beverly, it's true in Salem, two of the highest loading docks in the MBTA system. That's crazy. That's crazy for what it means for people, inability to get to jobs, inability to get to food and getting to doctor's appointments. This means more isolation. Our transit systems are like circulation systems in the body. Adding fare increases is like adding cholesterol to your blood system. It just jams it up more, and nothing works right as a result. So these fare increases have been pointed out, they're not going to move the needle nearly enough. With a 7.5 bill backlog of transit needs, it needs a shot in the arm is what it needs. It needs an investment. This is why we talk about our schools and our transit systems, which all of us only use some of. I don't use the roads as much. But anyone who lives in Beverly knows that you don't need me and all my train riding friends to jam up 62 because it's already a mess between downtown Beverly and 128, and then Salem, good heavens, So, I mean, it's an investment in ourselves and in our economy to make sure this stuff works right. So yeah, I can't believe we're here again. I didn't think we'd be at this place, and I'm really disturbed to hear that we're considering getting around this 5% cap that was set a couple years ago. So if we do get something like a 10% raise or 7% raise. I'm going to make darn well sure all my friends know that it was the governor's proposal that is making their lives harder, more expensive, and jamming up their roads, because that is ridiculous and unacceptable. Thank you.
Brian Sylvain? Brian?
Good evening, Madam Secretary, elected officials, local residents, fellow riders. I'm with the San Hogs Local 88 Tunnel Workers Union. Made many meetings, Green Line Extension meetings, Silver Line meetings, Urban Ring meetings, and we want to have a better system. It's time to stop giving money to all these studies and getting after one thing and making it the best system we got. Blue line, red line connection, there's a lot of things on the table. If you're going up on fares, let's get some of these projects going as well to make it the #1 system. Thank you.
Linda Bruce?
I don't usually speak at these things, but I also take the train. I've been traveling in and out of Boston for 27 years and using the different systems that are out there, the Blue Line. Can you not hear me? Is that better?
That's better.
Thank you. The Blue Line, the commuter rail, and the feeling I have is that we're getting squeezed. We, the middle class, are getting squeezed in multiple ways, from the federal government to the state government to the T. 5% may not seem like a lot, but capitalism isn't necessarily working. I have a job and I'm happy, but the increases don't keep up with all the increases that are going on. And if I felt like I was going to pay some more money and get some better service, and also know that the problem was going to be solved, I'd be happy to do it. But I just don't agree with it because nothing changes. Another few years, they're going to come back and they're going to say they need more money. And I know the infrastructure of the state's bad and everything else. I'm tired about politicians telling us that things are going to change, we give more money, the money gets shifted to other places, and nothing changes. That's all I have to say.
Nancy Houghton?
Hi. First off, my name is Nancy Houghton. I'm from Beverly. And first off, I need to echo something that one of the other people said. Whose slick move was it to schedule this meeting at such an inaccessible place? It's just ridiculous. I'm here representing BCIL, which is the Boston Center for Independent Living, and also MASSADAP, which is the national organization that fights for disability rights. I worked for 50 to 60 hours a week, raising 2 children and a disabled husband. I was widowed when my children were 8 and 12, and I continued to work with very little assistance from anybody. Now, I find that I am terminally ill. My doctors that are keeping me alive are at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. I cannot make it to the commuter rail in Beverly. The only option I have is to get on a ride, go on the paratransit. The last time that rates were raised, the commuter rail riders were in an uproar. Their rates went up 27%. You know what paratransit went up? 150%. And until somebody said, well, wait a minute, that's just not acceptable, they're going to leave it there. Luckily, enough of us spoke up and said, no, that's just not acceptable. Now, if you need to cut, all right, fine. Check out some of your providers for the paratransit system. like National Express, well, I'll tell you, somebody needs to be looking at them because that is the most horrible service. The company is just totally incompetent. And I thank my stars that I deal mostly with GLSS, was being on the North Shore. But, I mean, without my doctors in Boston, I would be dead today. My prognosis was 3 to 5 years. That was coming up on 12 years ago. So I'm already on borrowed time, but I'd like to stick around a little bit longer if possible. And raising the paratransit rates, I've basically signed my death certificate. Social Security is far from secure. I paid in for a lot of years, and I've done the whole, I'm a good citizen. Well, now I need help, and by raising paratransit fares at all would be an extreme hardship, and I don't speak for just myself. I know very many people, and it's just, you can't do it to us. You would be killing us. Doctor's appointments, they're important, but also when you're terminally ill, getting out and being able to go to church, socialize with friends, those are things that cut down the depression and suicide rates. So think about that, because I am the face of a paratransit rider. Thank you.
Beth Isler. Karen Macbeth is no longer here. Pamela Bush.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Well, first of all, it took me over an hour to get here from Boston, and I couldn't take the MBTA, so I had to drive, and that was not my plan. And so this place was very hard to find. I got lost 3 times, and I took a very circuitous route. But my reason for being here, I represent the riders of the Fairmont line, and I work for the Greater Four Corners Action Coalition, and I'm also the chair and convener for the Fairmont Indigo Transit Coalition. One of the things that I want to really stress is that, you know, oil prices have gone down, and a lot of people find it much cheaper to get on the road and drive. And if last winter was any indicator, due to the warmer temperatures, we had the craziest winter, and it was snowmageddon, as they called it. And climate change is really impacting all of our lives and causing 100-year storms to happen every other weekend, it seems. So one of the things that I want to say is we need to pass on the savings that the MBTA gets to be passed on to the riders. We also, the refill fares right now, which are at the end of the Fairmont line, would be $4 higher if the fare increase went on than the rest of the line, and we want the refill fares to be the same fare as the rest of the Fairmont line. We've been advocating for this for over 20 years, trying to get some level fares, and we finally got the fares to be more equitable, but we need to add the refill fares, which are at the end of the line, to also be added into the current fare structure, so that, because people who live in that area are now going to have to pay $126 more for a commuter rail pass and $4 higher than the rest of the line. Also, We advocated for the past 14, 15 years for diesel multiple units, and with Mr. Baker coming into office, he cut that out of the budget, and we're asking that it be added back in. That money was allocated in the Governor Patrick's budget that he passed to put those types of trains, diesel multiple units on that line so that we could have more frequent service. Also, we want to look at the other issue is that housing prices have risen exponentially. And over the past 10 to 12 years, fares when my grandson was born were 60 cents, and now they're more than tripled since then. It's just another tax on the poor because people can't afford their transportation costs and the housing costs that have gone up crazy. A two-bedroom apartment now on average is about $1,800. And what pocket can we dig out some more change from or out of the sofa to find another way to pay these higher fares? Also, the Charlie card should be more streamlined so that they could be used on all modes. Maybe add proof of payment machines as they have on the Green Line, because we shouldn't have to use all of these different structures for the Charlie card, and also taking out making it so that people have to use an app on a phone and changing that structure around the commuter rail app is not convenient for people who don't have that type of access. A lot of people don't know how to use all of those apps, don't know how to download them, and this is going to be another challenge for folks. And let's see. I think that's about all I have to say. We just want the fares to stay at a level that people can afford, because poor people cannot afford to dig money out of any more pockets to try and pay these higher fares. It's just unsustainable fare structures. Thank you.
Okay, that represents the last of our signed up speakers. If there's anybody in the audience that has not signed up and would like to speak now, please raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone or come on down. Okay, seeing none, I'd like to turn it over to Secretary Pollack to close this meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, we have one over here.
Hi, my name is Jerome Falco. I live in Swampscott. I am a reverse commuter. I work in Rockport, and I ride the train from Swampscott to Rockport every day, 5 days a week. I'm supposed to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Every time we change the schedule, it goes a little bit further, a little bit further. Now I get in just about 9 o'clock with the new fares. I won't be able to get in by 9 because it gets to the station at 9. Well, yeah, it gets to the station at 9, that's what they say. It has not gotten to the station on time, probably in the last year and a half, I'd have to say, on a regular basis. I do work for the town, so I do have some flexibility, and that's okay. But trying to come home, again, I have to catch either a 4 o'clock train or a 5:25 train. Try and put your 8 hours in there from 9 to 4 to 9 to 5:30, those kind of things. My husband works in Beverly. He'd like to be able to take the train in, but the train he takes, he can't get to the train station because it doesn't stop there in the morning. And then when he picks it up there in the evening, it doesn't stop in Swampscott. Is there something we can do about those kind of schedules? That's the kind of thing that I have issues with. Thank you.
Mr. Wood.
Good evening. Just arrived and I got right to the podium. I am very frustrated with our public transit system, and I realize that this is a meeting about fares. Well, I rarely use the transit system, and I know that probably the vast majority of people in the state rarely use it. So in a sense, the money that I pay for taxes goes towards the transit system. And so I think that the transit system should pay for itself. And so I'm not opposed to the increase. I feel bad that people are have hardship because of the fares will increase. But I run my own business, and I feel like I find it mind-boggling that the number I've heard passed around is that the T is 19 billion in debt, and we've never really heard a peep out of this, about this from any one of our legislative delegation. I feel like they are responsible for giving us a transportation system that we can afford. I feel like we are living beyond our means, and if this was a private company, there would be layoffs of people, and we would cut down on maybe some stations that are close together. I don't know what you would do, but they just keep taxing the citizens more and more and more. And now they want to build an expansion that was supposed to be $1 billion, and now it's going to be $3 billion. And I just find it unbelievable. And we here in Lynn had our name on the table to get the MBTA to come to Lynn for decades. And what would it cost to do that? It would cost less than bringing it to Malden or Medford rather, but they're not going to do that. So I'm just deeply frustrated at the level of debt that is involved, and I feel very badly what my generation is leaving behind. And this is happening nationally, and it's happening on a statewide level. And it's just because we overspend. We bring systems into we have systems that we can't afford. So that's all. And I feel like if we have to increase the fares, we have to increase the fares. But I think we should think about laying off or cutting back to the system. And so that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak that hasn't had an opportunity? Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Secretary Paul.
Wait.
Sorry, I forgot one thing. Our organization had an open door policy with our previous administrations of general managers and secretaries, and we were able to call them up. We could get meetings. The Fairmont Indigo Transit Coalition has been trying to get a meeting with the secretary and the general manager of the MBTA since last April. And we have had the door closed to us. We have not been able to discuss any of the issues that we needed to discuss regarding our the bus schedules, syncing bus schedules with the Fairmont trains so that people will be able to get on, be able to connect to their trains on that system. We asked them to talk to us about diesel multiple units. The trains that we had been budgeted in to be put on those lines. And we've asked them to speak to us on many levels about, we sent letters, we've made phone calls, we've talked to chiefs of staff, and we have been unable to get one meeting to come in and discuss the issues that we have around this. And now we're faced with another fare increase, and none of those issues have been addressed. And I just want to put it out there that we really want to speak to you, and we need to have you listen to us because this is public transportation, and we are the public, and we need to put it out there that this needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try and close this out one more time. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? We We have one over
I
here.
don't want to speak, I just have a question. We arrived about 5 minutes late, and I just want to know, is there a schedule planned that we can view, either online or
These presentations will be on the MBTA website tomorrow.
tomorrow?
Yes, so you'll be able to view them then.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Secretary Pollack.
I just want to thank everyone who took the time to come here this evening and give us your comments. I want to encourage you to encourage others that you know to either attend the meetings that we'll be holding over the next several weeks, to go online. We've actually tried to create fairly simple to use tools on both the commuter rail schedules and the fare increase that allow people to look up how the schedule changes or the fare increases would directly affect you, and then give us your feedback, for example, on the schedules, whether you feel they're more or less convenient than the old ones, or on the fares, what ideas you have. So we remain open for comments at these hearings, online, by email, by letter, up through February 12th. We welcome your participation and thank you for coming.